glory. We the Ambazonians pledge our loyalty. Praise to our Savior who granted us the freedom. Allegiance to the hero who called the lonely gather. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Here in a nation flowing with earth and holy. Glory, glory, glory to the Father for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meet in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, fellow Ambazonians on ground zero and other parts of the world. I am Dr. Julius Nyih, your Vice President and the Deputy Leader of the Ambazonian Quest for Freedom. You're all welcome to this special edition of a regular update on the status of our liberation movement. Before I start, I would like to send salutations to our fellow comrades that are incarcerated in the dungeons of La République du Cameroun. I will also send salutations to our comrades who are incarcerated outside of Cameroon, particularly Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, our leader, who is wrongfully incarcerated in Norway on frivolous charges. I also want to extend my salutations to those Ambazonians who meant good for their fellow comrades incarcerated in some jails in the United States. I also want to assure our internally displaced, as well as those displaced externally, our refugees in Cameroon, in Nigeria, in all parts of the world, that the day for you to come home is drawing closer. As such, I would like to focus on 3 points today. One, the complicity of Norway with Cameroon in order to stop the Ambazonian quest for freedom. Two, the eminent plans of the Cameroon Secret Service, the police, the army, the gendarmerie to move into Ambazonia in the near future to commit a new wave of genocide on the civilian population, because they think if our leader is detained by the Norwegians, they are able to penetrate our defenses. And then lastly, I'll talk about the nascent quest to bring all Ambazonians together, because there is a window of opportunity in the international system that can allow us to continuously put a common front as we did in Canada and won Cameroon hands down and they ran away. That quest has been rejuvenated, but with a different actor. Fellow Ambazonians, the state of your revolution is strong. I salute our brave defenders of forced occupation I salute our civilian population for engaging in self-awareness of their predicament, for engaging in civil disobedience, and in the days ahead, we will be asking them to take another bold step to tell Cameroon that they are the true owners of the land and not their forces of occupation after they've lost governability of the entire territory of Ambazonia. Our forces are strong, their spirit is high, despite the numerous incursions that Cameroon has tried in the last 4 weeks. They have been unable to penetrate even a single barrack. That shows you the desperation, the naivety, and the weakness of Cameroon forces to think that because the leader is incarcerated, they can take opportunity. And in regard to the incarceration of Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, yesterday the police department in Norway applied to the public prosecutor for an extension of his stay in custody on the pretext that he leads a huge organization that is well structured and that they are unable to complete their investigation in the 4 weeks that they had initially asked for. As such, some restrictions that were placed on the CIC have been lifted. The CIC was able to have a direct communication with us outside, and his prescriptions are clear, just as we thought, and based on our evidence that Norway is complicit in the push by the international community fronted by France in order to stop Ambazonia. Lest you forget, the arrest and detention of Dr. Cho is based on some allegations, and as such, Dr. Cho has been charged of inciting violence in Cameroon. They failed to mention Ambazonia. Cameroon, I can assure you, in the last 7 months, have sent emissaries to Norway, including the likes of Ellis Smith, the Shadiers, the head of the Catholic Church in Bamenda. That should be Mr. Nkea. I'm not going to call him with his reverend name. And the moderator of the Presbyterian Church, Mr. Funky. All of them, including other top-ranking officials of Cameroon, have gone to Norway. And to their greatest surprise, we understood and we could infiltrate their discussions. 6 months ago, Cameroon came to Norway and demanded the Norwegians to do something to stop Dr. Cho because he was causing havoc in their supposedly occupied territory. And the Norwegians asked what they could do. And Cameroon agents boldly told the Norwegians, we want the head of Dr. Cho. And that was the prescription. Let me take you back. Norway is the epitome of the defense of human rights across the world. And their diplomacy is centered around the respect and defense of human rights across the globe. Norway was one of the many countries that voted for the independence of Ambazonia in April 1961. Norway, since 2018, has received numerous formal communications from the Ambazonian Governing Council, the Norwegian Parliament, the Norwegian Foreign Ministry, and other institutions in Norway have communicated sincerely following non-disclosure agreements with the Ambazonian Governing Council. But in the last 6-7 months, Cameroun, in an attempt to revive its diplomatic links with Norway and in an attempt to cajole the Norwegian government to hand over Dr. Cho's head on a platter to them, have been able, through its allies in the international community fronted by France, to influence the Norwegian police system to bring forth charges reported by some individuals in the police department against Dr. Cho Ayaba. Norway is fully aware and has worked with us directly and indirectly, the Ambazonian Governing Council, to see how the conflict between Ambazonia and Cameroun can be resolved through negotiations. So Norway is not unaware of the happenings in Ambazonia. Different institutions in Norway, especially the public security institution, has been politically influenced by Cameroun through its agents and by the international community fronted by its paymaster to bring frivolous charges. Because lest you forget, Dr. Cho is held, as the Norwegian Director of Public Police said, on charges, and they are still gathering evidence. It is unthinkable in this day and age. It is unthinkable in the European Union, where Norway is a signatory of the European Convention on Human Rights, where Norway is a signatory and adherent to the different protocols underpinning human rights statutes in the European Union, that they will infringe on those rights, either by omission or by complicity, in detaining Dr. Cho Ayaba without evidence. The Ambazonian Governing Council, in the days ahead, will petition the different organs through our solicitors in Norway, so that the rights of the European citizen, Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, be respected following Article 5 of the European Convention on Human Rights. His continuous detention is against a fundamental human right. His continuous detention is a complot between the police department, the Norwegian government, and Cameroun, who demanded that the Norwegian government hands over Dr. Cho's head, that he should be killed. We know that France asked for the killing of pro-independent fighters, pro-independent advocates, and pro-independent politicians in Switzerland, and the Swiss were complicit in that act. We are calling on Norway to respect its obligations under the European law, to also respect its obligations under international human rights law, of which it is a signatory, and Norway prides its diplomacy under the respect and pursuit of human rights around the globe. We ask the Norwegian government, we ask the Norwegian prosecution service to look carefully into the case and to be mindful of their obligations in order to make sure that Dr. Cho is released without any further delay. We have evidence of the complicity of the discussion between Cameroun and the Norwegian authorities, and that evidence will be provided in court following non-disclosure agreements at the appropriate time. We now know that the Norwegian Prosecution Service is also not doing due diligence in order to examine the facts before it. The Norwegian Prosecution Service is either naive, complicit, or ignorant of the case before it, because the Norwegian Prosecution Service cannot continuously keep a suspect who has not been indicted, who has not been found guilty of a crime, continuously for more than the required time under Norwegian law and following Norwegian jurisprudence. We are of the opinion, and the legal opinion through the Department of Justice in the Ambazonian Governing Council, that Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba has nothing more to do in the dungeons of Norway, and that the request by the Norwegian Police Service cripples to continuously hold Dr. Cho because they have not yet concluded their investigation and because they've not yet found any evidence to support the purported videos he made in 2017, 2018, and 2024. That is the basis of his arrest and the basis of his detention is not valid. It is not accepted. It is against a human rights convention in the European Union. It's against Norway's own human rights regulations and laws. We are working hard through our solicitors to make sure that the sick of the Ambazonian people, the tormentor of Cameroun, the harbinger of peace within Ambazonia and the Gulf of Guinea, and the first defender of human rights and advocate of self-defense in the Gulf of Guinea can be set free. It is Dr. Cho Ayaba who embodies the spirit of the Ambazonian people, the aspirations of the Ambazonian people, and as such, Norway, cognizant of the happenings in Ambazonia through our interactions with their different services, is well placed to understand the role that Dr. Cho plays. We call on the Norwegian Refugee Council to play a critical part to make sure that Norwegian laws and Norwegian jurisprudence do not have these issues going forward. Fellow Ambazonians, your leader through communication with us is in high spirit, and he has indicated that you stand firm, that the complicity between Norway and Cameroun will not stop your pursuit to freedom, and the Ambazonian Governing Council and other movements are strong. We are standing firm with our population and our self-defense forces to make sure that freedom, or we keep fighting. We will fight Cameroun inch by inch, person by person, to the last man standing. Fellow Ambazonians, in the last 61 years, but particularly so in the last 8 years, we have seen the impunity of Cameroon forces, of Cameroon exported administrators in Ambazonia. We have seen the brutality, the genocide committed on our civilians, the case of Mami Api, the case of Sam Soya, the lacerations on our civilians, the forced disappearances. But also we have witnessed how inhumane this regime is also to its own population. And we have received classified intelligence, because just like we have moles in the Norwegian system, we also have moles in the Cameroonian system. We have received intelligence that there is an imminent plan by Cameroon to commit a new wave of atrocities in Ambazonia because they think they have a window of opportunity to put an end. They are mistaken. The crop of succession in the Ambazonian Governing Council is unmatched. The cohesiveness and the fortress built in the Ambazonian Governing Council will withstand Cameroon's eminent plans with steadfastness. In this regard, and in order to defend our population from this eminent plan to commit further crimes, to commit genocide, we are asking our populations, especially the people of Awing, crossing to Bamenya, the people around Matazan, the people on the Kumbalum axis, those on Kutupi between Jakiri and Fumban, to pay attention and be careful in the coming days. In the coming days, we will institute policies to allow Ambazonians to trade with themselves, to allow Ambazonians to trade with Biafra, to do commerce with Biafra, and to stop all export of goods, services, and resources to Cameroon. Ambazonia would learn through its sacrifices how to be self-sufficient and how to trade across the West into Biafra. It is the case that your cash crops are more expensive in Biafra than in Cameroon. And as such, we call on the population to get ready for this new escalation, for this new policy that would show Cameroon that you are the owners of your land. And that in the coming days, Ambazonians should stay put wherever they are and don't make unnecessary movements that would allow us to properly target Cameroon, to properly thwart its plans to commit new waves of genocide in Ambazonia. Fellow countrymen and women, this is not the time to cower. We have shown Cameroon in the last 8 years, when they promised us that we're 2 cubes of sugar, that we can humble them on the battlefield. They have worked hand in gloves with Norway to open a new front. We will fight them with all the legal tools in our box. Cameroon has used its enablers, its agents within us, to propagate a false narrative. We have fought them. We will continuously fight them, and we will win them, and we will bring those that will escape to justice at the appropriate time. Fellow countrymen and women, the future is bright. Cameroon is descending into chaos, and I ask you to be vigilant and to respect the laws of the Ambazonian land. I also call on Cameroonians to rise up, just like Ambazonia rose up in 2016, to take their destinies in their hands. Cameroon is not only committing crimes against Ambazonia. You have seen crimes that Cameroon has committed against you people. The evil regime must be resisted not only in Ambazonia, but by Cameroonians themselves, and push all the bloodsuckers, the occultists, and those who maim your children and fathers and mothers. Send them packing, send them to the dungeons of hell. In order to make sure that our resistance is focused, and in order to make sure that post-independence stability, both economic, social, and political, is assured. The different movements that took place in a retreat in Canada have come together because our international partners have notified us that there is a window of opportunity to push forth the negotiations. I can assure you that the Canadian angle of negotiations are forgotten. They have been forgotten. That angle is dead and buried. There is a new angle that is being worked upon. And in the coming weeks and months, all the different movements, irrespective of their shades, will be brought together using the previous Canadian formula to also win Cameroun on the negotiation table, or to force Cameroun, which we'll know they will not, because they have no argument. Cameroun came to the Swiss, and Ambazonia won them in the Swiss negotiations. They turned around and refused. Cameroun came to Canada. Ambazonia won them hands down, and Cameroun turned around and refused. Cameroun will be forced into another round of negotiation. We will win them. We will, through a democratic process of all the Ambazonian groups, sit on the table and negotiate with Cameroun its exit from Ambazonia. There is no compromise. The only option for Cameroun is to exit Ambazonia on the negotiation table or on the battlefield, where we will defend ourselves. It is our universal right to defend ourselves against impunity. It is our universal right, and I'm an ardent advocate of that right, to defend ourselves against a war that was declared by their president in November 2017. Ambazonia is simply engaged in self-defense, and the issues of violence as purported by the Norwegian authorities without any evidence is something that was instituted by Cameroun upon Ambazonia. And Ambazonia is being looked upon through the complicity of Norway as the perpetrator of violence rather than the victim. I call on you all, fellow Ambazonians, to remain steadfast, to be strong. Your vanguard organization is unshaken. The structures and processes are up to task, and we will make sure that Cameroun leaves Ambazonia through the negotiation table or through self-defense actions. This generation is the generation that will end Cameroon's thuggery in Ambazonia. It is the generation that is inspiring Cameroonians to stand up for their rights, to pursue their own adventures, to be able to freely live in a peaceful society without intimidation from their security agents. For us Ambazonians, we are gone and there is no turning back. For us Ambazonians, we will stop trading, stop moving across borders to Cameroon. We will trade with Biafra. We will trade with our neighbors on the west of our borders. And Cameroon, through this action, would know that we are the true owners of our land. Cameroon will know that despite their maiming, despite their genocide, despite their killings, forced disappearances, we will remain unbowed. We will end its failed adventure in Ambazonia. Hail, hail, this land of glory.
Hail, hail, hail this land of glory. We the Ambazonians pledge our loyalty. Praise the soul of Savior who granted us the freedom. And legends to the hero who God alone we gather. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Here in a nation, flowing with earth and holy. Glory, glory, glory. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
Welcome to ACN.
Arise, Southern Cameroun's Ambazonia rise. Some man came with all the lies, but never liked us from the start. We shouldn't have believed in such a pact. Perhaps a little patience would have yielded fruit. Did we have to go through all this? Do we see the wounds of this brotherhood? Southern Cameroons, you are a nation in exile. Ambazonia, your children are strangers in their homeland. Some have fled to distant lands. Southern Cameroons, arise, arise, ooh, and bring your nation home. Dismantled all what made us proud. Corporate, traditional, and economic. They crippled our infrastructure, made poverty a way of life. Do you see the misery and human suffering? All in the name of brotherhood. Southern Cameroons, you are a nation in exile. Ambazonia, your children are strangers in their homeland. Some have fled to distant lands. Southern Cameroons, arise, arise, ooh, and bring your nation home. When we stood across the bridge, insisting that things must change, while our Fontaine sang Boga and Nyih, they made it known, short and plain, that things will have to change. Did you see the force unleashed for daring to speak? Southern Cameroons, you are a nation in exile. Ambazonia, your children are strangers in their homeland. Some have fled to distant lands. Southern Cameroons, arise, arise, ooh, and bring your nation home. Today our homeland is a dismal wasteland, desolate and disconsolate. Fire, killing, is destruction in the name of brotherhood. Do you believe in such brotherhood? Tell me, do you really believe? Arise, Southern Cameroons! Ooh, Ambazonia, arise! Southern Cameroons, you are a nation in exile. Ambazonia, your children are strangers in their homeland. Some have fled to distant lands. Southern Cameroons, arise, arise, ooh, and bring your nation home.
Welcome to ACN.